Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and this week I am working on a Science Friction from Hot Wheels, and I'm doing something a little bit different than I usually do. Finally had some time to work on a project that I've been wanting to work on, not just commission work, so this is a little bit more in depth, and came out really good. As always, if you like die-cast cars and trucks, you enjoy customizing them, looking for tips or inspiration for your own projects, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to click on the little bell to get notified of all future videos. So yeah, I get this this Science Friction. I believe it's from 77, 78 in that time frame. It's in, I wouldn't say good shape, but it's certainly not horrible by any way, shape, or form. It's got two posts, as always. Drill those out, and I really wasn't overly concerned because at this point I wasn't even sure if I was going to use it. I had gotten a chassis in the mail from a subscriber and a friend, and I was looking for this particular one because it was rear engine. And I kind of hemmed and hawed about what I was going to do with it. I knew I wanted to do something. I kind of played around with like a Dodge Daytona nose, then go something crazy like a Corolla nose. And I had this sitting on the table, and I ended up moving something, and it kind of rolled over to where the chassis was. And I'm like, oh shit, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. It's already rear engine. So I'm going to take it apart. I took the chrome windshield. There's no interior in these. The chrome windshield has seen some better days, but I'm going to end up repainting that anyways. So in order to make this work, I needed to mate pieces together, and because the back half is plastic, the chassis for the Science Friction was steel. I just didn't think it was going to be a good fit. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of outlining the existing Science Friction chassis, and I kind of picked the spot, which is right behind the rear post, and that's kind of where I'm going to mate it. And I'd kind of already sort of eyed it out of what I wanted. So I'm just doing this out of styrene, and I would normally try to do this out of steel, like a thin piece of sheet metal or semi-thin, and I didn't have any handy, so I decided to go with styrene, which is, in the end, easier to work with, of course. So the first part really was just kind of cut out the basic shape. It's not going to be perfect the first time, so you kind of fit it in there, and you kind of sand and smooth and everything else to make it perfect. I always cut a little big, and it's easier to trim down, and you waste a lot less. You got to notch out the front for where the bumper sits in there. It's got two little things on the bottom there, but really it actually worked out really well. I wasn't going to keep the I guess it's a radar disc of some sort, so I'm going to cut that off because it interferes with the scoop of the motor, and I really didn't like it anyways. It kind of looks stupid, to be honest with you, but I wanted a light because a light makes everything cool. The big thing here was just a lot of fitting, trial and error. Surprisingly, there was a lot less error than trial on this one, where usually it's the other way around, but you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm fitting it, looking for where things are going to end up. I know I have to cut the base, obviously, now, and if you look, it's got some tabs that come in from where the motor would sit, and overhangs technically the frame, even though it's all molded as one piece. So I'm going to kind of use that as my guideline, and so when I cut, I can have a rough idea and have a solid point where I can actually glue the styrene to the existing base there. You'll see in a second. It's kind of hard to explain. There's a lot of this I couldn't video just because my big paws are in the way, and it's just certain things are really kind of hard to do when you're videoing. I spend more time trying to figure out, like right there, I got my hand in the way, trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I don't like working with the camera in front of me, like a lot of guys do. I find it cumbersome. So the other thing too is with these wheels, I needed to grind a little bit of the base off, just the the part that kind of prevents the axles from bending. So it would be as low as I could possibly get it, and still roll, which is ultimately the goal on any project that you do. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I like projects like this. I like trying to make things work the best I can with what I have, and being able to take multiple cars and make one cool car out of it. And I try to stay fairly true on this one to what the science friction was originally, which was a rear engine. I'm just using I think it's called a mill rod or mid rod chassis. So right here, I'm just kind of shoring it up with a little piece of styrene in between. You can kind of see how it's mounted there now. The other thing too is the whole glass piece, or mirrored glass and engine, was all one piece. So of course I don't need that, so I'm going to cut that off flush so it doesn't overhang over the back where the engine would be. Pretty simple. I use a cutoff wheel. You can use anything. It's plastic. You can see there how it's, again, I'm fitting things and making sure everything looks good and works. And I'm going to use a piece of 1/16 styrene tubing, which is pretty much the same size as a regular axle tube. I'm just using styrene. I just thought it would adhere better than the brass. I really wanted to make this chassis out of brass or steel, like I mentioned earlier, but I just didn't have the time, and I got kind of excited, and I wanted to get this done. So I'm going to primer everything, the motor, the interior, the light bumper assembly that has the guns on it, and then I'm going to end up painting each one a little bit differently. The scoop is kind of just die cast color to begin with, but it had some casting lines and everything else, and I wanted to kind of go with an industrial look, so I just kind of sanded it down, and I'm going to leave it that way. I'm going to clear coat it. That's as far as that goes. The TS42 silver is what I'm going to use for the base. Kind of, again, I want that futuristic industrial look. So after stripping the paint, there was a few defects, nothing major. Clean out the holes or any places, some body lines that need to be enhanced a little bit with the pick, and I also use my knife backwards, not the sharp edge, just to kind of clean things out, make sure it's all nice and clean, and at the same time dig just a little bit deeper to enhance the lines. Wire brush, then I'll steel wool. I wipe everything down with like lacquer thinner before I'll paint, just to get the best possible painting surface that I can. I wasn't overly concerned with a lot of the defects, only because they're very, very minor, and the primer was going to fill it in. So the little light that sticks out, I painted that part black, which was the light, the guns, and the front rubber bumper. But I painted the light chrome, and then I'm going to go over it with this Model Master. It's almost like a transparent red. I think it's called turn signal red. So it actually just kind of makes the light pop a little bit more instead of that stupid ass red plastic look. So it has a little bit of a shine to it. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold here. The mirrored windows, I'm going to scuff up a little bit with some 800 grit sandpaper, and then I'm going to give it the old chrome paint. So I paint it black, I clear it, and then I put the Quicksilver Chrome from Createx over it, and then I clear that as well. It gives it a nice mirrored finish. So for the body, I'm going to use my Stynylrez Gray Primer. This stuff's awesome right out of the bottle. And my splash paints. I'm using dark aluminum. I've been trying the different paints that I ordered from them, and I haven't found a bad one yet. They're all awesome. I love this stuff. Right out of the bottle, right into my gun, and easy to clean. The engine had a lot of detail that just was overlooked just because it was all chrome or copper. So I'm going to put some leather straps, detailed the NOS bottles, detailed underneath, painted the oil pan. I'm doing some other little details here and there. Nothing crazy, but all those little details add up to the final product. I'm using my chrome pen on the exhaust, and then I'm going to use my black Gundam markers, which I just got thanks to Diecast Resurrection mentioning it. I decided I'd give them a try, and I love them. painting the guns like that's called lead belcher, but it's a very dark aluminum. It has a very industrial look. So I decided, I kind of hemmed and hawed, I liked the silver or the aluminum look, but I was inspired by Battlestar Galactica and the Vipers. So I decided to go with some red stripes. I took some creative freedom. There you can see my finished chrome. And that's kind of what it looks like before clear coat. Really came out good. Love the way the red and the aluminum pop. Now I'm going to take some of my weathering powders. This is the one with blue and bronze in it. And I'm just going to add a little bit of discoloration to the chrome exhaust. I'm not a huge weathering powder fan. I've had these for, I don't know, 10 months now. I've probably used them 3 times. But it had the, it's nice to have an arsenal of different things you can try and use. I probably could have had the same effect with some paints, but maybe like dry brushing on, but just being able to try different things, and it just helps with the overall build and helps build your repertoire of different talents that you can apply to different projects. And very rarely do I have an exhaust that's exposed, so this was a good opportunity. The little lights, 2 little searchlights on top, I figured I painted those chrome, and then I'm going to highlight the outsides with yellow. Again, it's like a turn signal yellow. I don't know the exact color. I'm sorry. I don't pay attention to details on stuff like that all the time. I don't use it very often. That's why. So pretty much what I did is I assembled it, minus the underneath front bumper and gun, etc. And I'm just going to clear coat the whole thing with my 2K clear. And then I'm going to matte clear the engine compartment. I'm sorry, the engine and the light stuff. Shout out to my Patreon members, Chris Smith, Joey Williams, Kristen Stanland, Stephen Mance, William Robinson, Ed Ostrander, Devil's Details Diecast, Matchbox Garage, Alvarez's Diecast Customs, Jim Silva, and one-time pledges from Chris Stanifer and Aaron Connard. The ones with the YouTube icons, make sure you check them out down below. They are linked. This is what I started with. This was an awesome project. I love it. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. Pictures really don't do it justice, but it does a pretty good job. I just kind of mix and match some stuff together, and this is what I came up with. I call it Mad Science. Kind of a play on the words from, obviously, well, I don't have to explain it, but this is what I got. As always, I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you leave me some comments down below. I'd love to hear your input. I will catch you on the next one.